You ever look at the economy and just get this feeling that something's a little off? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful and honestly pretty overlooked school of economic thought that asked that exact same question. And the answers they came up with? Well, they're fascinating, right? It's a feeling a lot of us have. For decades, the big dominant economic theories described a world that was always neatly finding its perfect balance. But what if that feeling of being out of whack, what economists call disequilibrium, what if that's actually the normal state of things? Okay, so to really get what's so revolutionary here, we first have to understand what it was pushing back against. For a huge chunk of the 20th century, the main idea in town was something called the neoclassical synthesis. And for a long time, this was the theory, the big one. You can see why, right? It seemed to have an answer for everything, from the total chaos of the Great Depression all the way to periods of calm and stability. It painted this really comforting picture of the economy as this, self-correcting machine. The logic was pretty straightforward. The economy by its nature is perfectly balanced, so a big problem like a recession, that's just a temporary glitch. Usually, they said, it's because wages are too sticky and won't adjust downwards. Fix that one little problem in the labor market, and poof, everything just snaps right back into its perfect equilibrium. A little too neat and tidy, don't you think? And this is where our story gets really interesting. Enter our protagonist, an economist named Robert Clower. He looked at this beautiful, seemingly perfect model, and he found a giant, gaping hole right in the logic. And his question was so simple, it was absolutely genius. He pointed to this core economic rule called Walras's Law. Just think of it like a scale. If one side goes down, something on the other side has to go up. The law says you can't have just one market out of balance. So Clower asked, wait a minute, if you have tons of unemployment, that's a massive imbalance. Where's the other side of that equation? The mainstream theory just kind of ignored it. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. Mainstream theory was living in this fantasy Walrasian world with some magical auctioneer instantly setting perfect prices for everything. But Clower was like, hello, that's not how anything actually works. In the real world, it's messy. Deals happen at imperfect prices second by second. And in that world, money isn't just a nice to have, it's the absolute lifeblood of the whole system. This quote from Clower just nails it. Think about it. You can't just walk into a car dealership and offer to work for a week in exchange for a new car. It doesn't work that way. You have to sell your labor for money first, and then you can go buy that car. That little step in the middle, that changes everything. So, Clower found the problem. But what was his solution? Well, it was brilliant. He basically split our economic desires into two completely different buckets, our dreams versus our reality. First up, you've got what he called notional demand. This is basically your fantasy shopping spree, right? If you had the job you wanted, making the salary you wanted, this is all the stuff you'd go out and buy. It's your dream shopping list based on a perfect world. But then reality hits, and that's effective demand. This is what you can actually buy with the cash that's in your pocket right now. For someone who's out of a job, their effective demand is practically zero, even if their notional dream shopping list is a mile long. He called this whole process the dual decision hypothesis. It's a two-step dance. First, we dream. That's our notional demand. Then we face the facts of our bank account. That's our effective demand. And for someone who's unemployed, that second step is a brutal reality check that sends shockwaves through the entire economy. And this is where it locks into a vicious cycle. Unemployed people don't have money, so they can't buy stuff. Businesses see that nobody is buying their stuff. So what do? They stop hiring. All the while, the workers are basically screaming, hey, if you just gave me a job, I'd buy your products. But the businesses can't hear them. It's a total breakdown in communication, a coordination failure, and it's how an economy can get seriously stuck. So Clower's idea was a massive breakthrough, a real game changer. But the story doesn't stop there. Another economist, Edmond Malinvaud, took Clower's ideas and basically built a whole diagnostic toolkit to figure out the different kinds of trouble an economy could be in. Malinvaud's starting point was super practical. He just said, look, in the real world, prices and wages don't just jump around every 5 minutes. They're kind of sticky or fixed. So when the economy gets hit by something, it doesn't really adjust by changing prices. It adjusts by changing quantities, like how much stuff gets made and how many people have jobs. And that led him to create this incredible map. It showed that being out of balance can mean a lot of different things. So let's take a quick look. In the top left, we've got Keynesian unemployment. That's the classic recession we all know. Too many goods on the shelves and too many people looking for work. But then, look at the top right, classical unemployment. Here, the problem isn't a lack of demand. The problem is that wages are just too high for companies to make a profit by hiring people. You see? Two totally different reasons for the exact same outcome, unemployment. And this is why it all matters so much. It's not just some academic exercise. If you've got Keynesian unemployment, government spending can help kickstart things. But if you've got classical unemployment, that very same policy could just pour gasoline on the fire. You absolutely have to get the diagnosis right before you write the prescription. Now, all of this sounds pretty insightful, right? It feels like it connects with reality. Which brings us to the big question. If this theory was so powerful, why isn't it a household name? Why isn't it in every single economics textbook? Well, like a lot of things in economics, the answer is it's complicated. The theory wasn't perfect, and by the 1980s, new economic fashions started to take over. It faced some really tough questions. For one, it kind of took for granted that prices and wages were sticky, but it never had a great explanation for why. And then you had these rival theories come along that were, frankly, a bit slicker and had more elegant math, and they just sort of stole the show. But, and this is a huge but, don't think for a second it just disappeared. The true legacy of this theory is massive. It might not exist as its own school of thought anymore, but its ghost is everywhere. It's a theory that forced everyone else to get serious about grounding their big ideas in the real-world behavior of actual people and companies, what they call micro-foundations. The questions it asked were so fundamental that they became part of the DNA of modern economics. So look, if you take away just one thing, let it be this. The disequilibrium school of thought may have faded, but its core insight, that the economy is not a perfect, self-correcting machine, that idea fundamentally changed the game. It lost the battle for its own name, but it completely reshaped the intellectual battlefield for everyone that came after. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. When you look at the world around us, at our own economy, does it feel like a perfectly balanced machine? Or does it feel a lot more like what Clower and Malinvaud were talking about? A complex system, constantly navigating a delicate, ever-shifting state of imbalance. The answer to that really shapes everything. Thanks for tuning in.